They some weirdos.
The link is in her bio. The link is in my bio.
You want your own son. Stunna Girl, Stunna Girl bending that ass over for my son right now, ho.
This one detonated so fast it didn't even give the timeline time to stretch first. 1 minute people were minding their business, scrolling like usual. And the next minute Karlissa was swinging verbal furniture at Chrisean fans like she'd been. Waiting all day for somebody to blink wrong. And the reason? Stunna Girl stepping in for Blueface like a plot twist nobody ordered but everybody suddenly had an opinion on. Because the moment Stunna Girl entered the frame, the internet lost its mind, pots were metaphorically clanging, narratives were being rewritten in real time, and Karlissa decided this was her moment to unload every unfiltered thought she'd been holding in like a pressure cooker. Fans thought they were just watching another messy chapter, but what they really witnessed was a full-blown verbal earthquake that cracked the foundation of an already unstable situation. And let's be clear, this wasn't polite shade. This wasn't subtle. This was the kind of say-it-with-your-chest energy that makes people clutch their pearls while secretly replaying the clip twice. Karlissa didn't just respond, she went off-script, off-brand, and off the rails, leaving Chrisean fans scrambling to defend themselves while the internet grabbed popcorn. This makes the Kardashians look like a silent retreat, because what unfolded here wasn't just drama, it felt like a secret argument got dragged into the daylight. And once it hit the timeline, there was no putting it back. And trust me, this was only the ignition. This whole mess didn't start with a shout. It started with a move, a quiet one, the kind that looks harmless until you realize it just flipped the entire board. Stunna Girl stepping in for Blueface wasn't announced with a press release or a dramatic countdown, but the internet clocked it immediately. One clip, one post. One moment of her being present in a way Chrisean fans weren't prepared for. And suddenly the narrative cracked like cheap glass. Because in this universe, nothing exists in isolation. Every action drags a history behind it, and this one came with receipts, grudges, and unfinished arguments attached. Chrisean fans reacted exactly how you'd expect people react when they feel replaced in real time. Confusion first, then denial, then outrage dressed up as concern. They flooded comment sections asking why Stunna Girl was there, what her role really was, and whether this was just another calculated move in a never-ending reality show nobody signed up for but everybody watches anyway. And hovering above all of it like a storm cloud with Wi-Fi was Karlissa, watching the chaos build like she'd seen this movie before and already knew the ending. Karlissa didn't ease into the conversation. She kicked the door open. The tone wasn't offensive, it was confrontational. She wasn't interested in clarifying or smoothing anything over. Her energy screamed, "I've been holding this in," and once she started talking, it was clear she wasn't planning to stop just because feelings got hurt. She went straight for Chrisean fans, calling out what she saw as hypocrisy, entitlement, and selective outrage. And whether people agreed with her or not, one thing was undeniable. She meant every word. To Karlissa, Stunna Girl wasn't the villain fans wanted her to be. She was help, support, someone actually showing up instead of performing concern from the comment section. And Karlissa made sure the internet understood that distinction loud and clear. Her message wasn't subtle, and it definitely wasn't diplomatic. She framed Chrisean fans as emotionally invested spectators who wanted control without responsibility, people more interested in defending a narrative than acknowledging reality. That framing hit a nerve because it forced fans to confront a version of themselves they didn't like seeing reflected back. The backlash was immediate. Screenshots flew, clips were chopped, reposted, slowed down, and analyzed like Karlissa had just dropped a diss track instead of an opinion. Fans accused her of disrespect, of stirring the pot, of choosing sides in a situation that didn't need more gasoline. But Karlissa didn't retreat. If anything, she doubled down. Her stance was clear. If Stunna Girl was stepping up when others weren't, then she deserved credit, not condemnation. And if Chrisean fans couldn't handle that, that was their problem. What made this phase of the drama so explosive was how personal it felt. This wasn't just about Blueface anymore. It wasn't even just about Stunna Girl. It became a referendum on loyalty, access, and who gets to speak for whom. Fans felt challenged. Like their role as defenders and commentators was being questioned, Karlissa wasn't just responding to criticism. She was challenging the entire ecosystem of fandom that thrives on proximity to chaos without accountability for its consequences. The internet, of course, did what it does best. It picked sides immediately. Some people applauded Karlissa for saying what they'd been thinking all along, praising her for being blunt in a space full of performative outrage. Others dragged her mercilessly, accusing her of inserting herself, escalating tensions, and using Stunna Girl as a pawn in a larger game of spite. Nuance didn't stand a chance. The story was moving too fast, and subtlety doesn't trend, and then there was Blueface, somehow central and irrelevant at the same time. His presence loomed over the situation like a shadow nobody could ignore, yet his voice barely mattered in the conversation. Everyone spoke about him, around him, and for him. Turning his relationships into a public referendum, Stunna Girl's involvement was framed as stepping in, but depending on who you asked, that meant either support or provocation. The truth didn't matter nearly as much as the optics, and the optics were loud. Karlissa's commentary reframed the entire situation. She positioned herself not as a meddler, but as someone tired of watching the same cycle repeat. In her eyes, fans weren't protecting Chrisean. They were protecting the version of the story they were emotionally attached to. And by defending Stunna Girl's presence, Karlissa was effectively saying that action mattered more than allegiance. That message landed like a slap to people who pride themselves on loyalty above all else. As the argument spread, old tensions resurfaced. Past disputes were dragged into the present, turning this moment into a highlight reel of unresolved beef. Fans pulled clips from months ago to prove Karlissa's bias, while her supporters countered with examples of Chrisean fans crossing lines in the name of support. It became a tug-of-war over morality, with both sides claiming the high ground and neither willing to let go. By the end of this chapter, the atmosphere had completely shifted. What started as Stunna Girl simply being present had snowballed into a full-scale clash between fandom and family, commentary and reality. Karlissa wasn't backing down, Chrisean fans weren't backing off, and the internet was locked in, waiting for the next escalation like it was guaranteed. Because in situations like this, silence isn't peace. It's just the calm before the next explosion. This second wave bulldozed whatever structure people thought was left. Because once Karlissa's words escaped the timeline and started echoing across reaction videos, vlogs, and group chats, the story mutated into something louder, uglier, and way more entertaining than anyone planned. This wasn't just family drama anymore. This was a public referendum on loyalty, clout, and who gets to rewrite history when the cameras are always rolling. Memes arrived first, because memes always show up before accountability. Screenshots of Karlissa's comments were paired with exaggerated captions, cooking emojis, and sarcastic one-liners like she just dropped a surprise verse on a diss track. People joked that Stunna Girl turned on the stove while Chrisean fans were still arguing over who bought the groceries. It was funny until it wasn't, because humor quickly turned into mockery, and mockery turned into outright disrespect. That's when the temperature spiked. Influencers jumped in like this was an open mic night for hot takes. Some pretended to stay neutral, using phrases like both sides have a point while clearly leaning into whichever angle got more engagement. Others went all the way in, accusing Karlissa of deliberately provoking fans to distract from Blueface's ongoing mess. And then there were the ones who treated Stunna Girl's involvement like a plot twist straight out of a soap opera, comparing it to reality TV moments where a surprise character walks in and flips the entire storyline upside down. One viral Post even claimed this made old love and hip-hop seasons look underproduced. Karlissa, meanwhile, didn't retreat into silence like people expected. She leaned into it. Every criticism seemed to sharpen her tone, not soften it. She framed the outrage as selective morality, pointing out how fans scream loyalty until someone they don't like actually shows up in real life. Her sarcasm cut deep. And she didn't bother dressing it up for politeness. The message was clear. Yelling online doesn't equal support, and liking posts doesn't count as being present when things get uncomfortable. That argument hit harder than people wanted to admit. Because suddenly, the conversation wasn't just about Stunna Girl or Blueface. It was about the illusion of influence fans believe they have. Karlissa challenged the idea that constant commentary equals involvement, and the internet does not. Like being reminded it's mostly watching from the outside, the backlash intensified, not because she was entirely wrong, but because she said it out loud. Celebrity reactions added fuel to the fire. A few familiar names posted cryptic messages about real ones showing up and internet support not paying bills, which fans immediately interpreted as taking sides. Others stayed quiet but liked posts that spoke volumes without saying anything directly. Every emoji became evidence. Every repost turned into a statement. The drama turned into a pop culture Rorschach test where people saw whatever confirmed their bias. Stunna Girl's role became even more exaggerated in the public imagination. To her supporters, she was being painted as the unexpected helper, stepping into chaos with action instead of commentary. To her critics, she was accused of inserting herself for attention, knowing exactly how explosive her presence would be. The truth sat somewhere in the middle. But the internet doesn't monetize middle ground, it monetizes extremes, and this situation delivered plenty. Public outrage reached a boiling point when fans started accusing Karlissa of disrespecting Chrisean directly. They claimed her defense of Stunna Girl was a thinly veiled attack on Chrisean's supporters. And, by extension, Chrisean herself. That accusation spread fast because it reframed Karlissa's words as betrayal instead of commentary. Once betrayal enters the narrative, logic leaves the building. People weren't listening to what was actually said anymore. They were responding to how it made them feel. Pop culture comparisons went wild. People liken Karlissa to the outspoken mom characters in reality TV who say what everyone's thinking but shouldn't, while others compared the whole situation to a messy family group chat that accidentally goes public. Someone joked that this drama had more layers than a Netflix documentary and half the accountability. The jokes kept coming, but each laugh carried a sharp edge. Reaction channels exploded. Everyone suddenly had insider knowledge, claiming sources close to the situation, breaking down Karlissa's tone like it was a psychological profile. Some creators praised her for honesty, framing her as the only adult willing to say uncomfortable truths. Others painted her as manipulative, suggesting she was using Stunna Girl as a shield to provoke fans without taking direct shots. The contradictions didn't matter. Confidence sold better than accuracy. What really escalated everything was how normalized the hostility became. Comment sections turned into battlegrounds, with fans and critics clashing under every related post. Blocking, muting, and unfollowing happened in waves, like digital follows, from a single argument. People who weren't even involved caught strays just for liking the wrong comment. The drama had become contagious. Blueface's silence only added to the chaos. His absence allowed everyone else to fill in the blanks, projecting intentions and motives onto a vacuum. Some claimed his quiet proved Karlissa was speaking for him. Others argued it showed he didn't care enough to intervene. Either way, his lack of response gave the internet permission to keep speculating, and speculate it did. By the end of this phase, the narrative had fully shifted. This wasn't about who cooked or who stepped in anymore. It was about power, perception, and who controls the story when everyone has a microphone. Karlissa had effectively reframed the debate, whether people liked it or not. And in doing so, She guaranteed one thing: by the time the noise dipped just enough for people to hear themselves think, the damage had already been done. This wasn't the kind of argument that fades with a new trending topic. It settled in, reshaping relationships and hardening opinions like concrete that dries before anyone realizes it's permanent. What started as Karlissa speaking her mind turned into a defining moment that rewrote how everyone involved would be viewed going forward. Karlissa's public image shifted in real time. To her supporters, she became the brutally honest voice nobody asked for but secretly wanted, the one willing to say what others tiptoe around. They framed her as someone fed up with online outrage culture, calling out fans who confuse constant commentary with real-world impact. To her critics, she crossed a line that didn't need crossing, escalating tension for no reason and choosing confrontation over calm. Both narratives stuck, and neither one canceled the other out. Chrisean fans felt the fallout immediately. The confidence they once had as a unified front fractured. Some doubled down, defending their role as supporters and insisting Karlissa disrespected not just them, but Chrisean by extension. Others quietly stepped back, exhausted by the cycle of defending, explaining, and being dismissed. That split mattered because once a fanbase fractures, its influence weakens, and the internet senses that vulnerability instantly. Stunna Girl's presence took on a life of its own. Whether she intended it or not, she became the symbol of the entire conflict. For some, she represented action over noise, someone physically present while others argued from behind screens. For others, she was cast as the opportunist, accused of benefiting from chaos and attention that wasn't hers to begin with. The truth, as usual, lived somewhere in between, but public perception doesn't wait for balance. It decides quickly and moves on. Blueface's relationships didn't escape unscathed. Even without him saying much, the situation reshaped how people interpreted his inner circle. Every connection was questioned. Every silence was suspicious. People began viewing his dynamics through a more cynical lens, assuming strategy where there might have been none. Once that lens locks in, it's hard to shake. And it follows every future move like a shadow. The long-term impact went beyond individual reputations. It changed how fans interacted with the entire saga. The blind enthusiasm cooled. Support came with conditions. Viewers became more skeptical, more guarded, and quicker to disengage when things got uncomfortable. Drama fatigue set in, and that's dangerous in a world where attention is currency. When audiences get tired, they don't protest, they disappear. What lingered most was the sense that boundaries had been tested and found fragile. Karlissa's words forced a conversation about where fandom ends and intrusion begins. The internet loves to claim concern, but this moment exposed how easily concern morphs into entitlement. People demanded explanations, access, and validation, forgetting that none of those are guaranteed just because someone lives their life publicly. The story also became a cautionary tale within the influencer ecosystem. Creators watched closely, noting how quickly a single comment can ignite a firestorm. Lives became shorter, posts became vaguer. Everyone adjusted, not out of fear, but out of survival. The message was clear: say the wrong thing at the wrong time, and the internet will turn your tone into your legacy. Despite the backlash, one thing Karlissa achieved was control of the conversation. Even critics had to respond to her framing. She shifted the debate from "why is Stunna Girl there?" to "what does real support actually look like?" That reframing didn't solve anything, but it changed everything. It forced fans to confront uncomfortable questions about their role, and discomfort rarely fades quietly. As the chaos cooled, unresolved tension remained. No apologies smoothed it over. No statement wrapped it up neatly. Instead, the story ended in ambiguity, the kind that keeps people watching and speculating long after the comments slow down. The lack of closure became the closure, leaving room for future flare-ups whenever another trigger appeared. And make no mistake, there will be another trigger. This saga isn't built on resolution. It's built on cycles. One moment of calm, one unexpected move, And the entire narrative spins again. The internet never really moves on. It just waits. What this chapter proved is simple and unsettling. In the world of viral drama, presence beats perception, noise beats nuance. And the loudest voice often decides the story. Whether it's right or not. Now, if you stayed all the way through this madness, you already know one thing for sure. This wasn't just another messy argument that popped up and disappeared with the next trending topic. This was a reminder that in the internet age, loyalty gets tested publicly, opinions get weaponized, and silence somehow speaks louder than shouting. And the wildest part is everyone watching feels like they're part of the story, even when they're really just spectators. With WI-feed. So go ahead and smash that like button like it owes you money and just try to dodge the bill. Drop your thoughts in the comments, because I already know this one has people split down the middle. Was Karlissa just saying what needed to be said? Or did she pour gasoline on a situation that was already burning? Was Stunna Girl really stepping up? Or was this another chapter in a never-ending cloud carousel? Say it with your chest. Respectfully messy only. And if you're still watching without subscribing, that's like showing up to the cookout, grabbing a plate, and leaving without saying thank you. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because around here the drama doesn't warn you before it drops. It just shows up uninvited, loud, and ready to trend. This channel breaks down the chaos, peels back the layers, and calls out the nonsense without pretending we're above it. We connect the dots others ignore, highlight the contradictions, and say the quiet parts out loud when the timeline starts acting brand new. Scandals don't sleep, egos don't shrink, and internet outrage refreshes every minute. So stay locked in, stay opinionated, and stay ready, because the next plot twist is always loading. And when it hits, you already know where to find it, right here on Fame Flaws, where the drama never ends, it just evolves.